Good morning and welcome to Breakfast News. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor. Let us begin by taking a look at the headlines. One arrested for making hijack threat call to Air India's Kolkata office. High alert sounded at airports across the country after specific inputs of a hijack threat to a Delhi-Kabul Air India flight. India tells Pakistan to stick to laid-down mechanisms to resolve disputes, rejects Pak claim of India having started the firing across the international border in Jammu and Kashmir. Good news for consumers as government mulls fixing a cap on airfares after carriers increase price of tickets. And the engines of the ill-fated Air Asia flight QZ8501 may have frozen as it passed through a storm cloud, leading to its tragic end. The top story. One person was arrested late last night by the Special Task Force of Kolkata Police for allegedly making a threat call to the city office of Air India. Now, 35-year-old Prasanta Biswas was arrested from Bongaon area in North 24 Parganas district. A special team which comprises officers of the STF and the Detective Department was tracking the number from which the call was made. Post the threat, security has been beefed up at the NSC Bose International Airport. The accused allegedly threatened that an Air India plane would be hijacked. Now, besides Kolkata, security has also been beefed up at the other airports across the country after a specific hijack alert from intelligence agencies. Airport authorities received inputs over the possibility of an Air India Delhi-Kabul flight being targeted by hijackers. The ground staff has been asked to intensify checks on cabin baggage of passengers and crew. Commandos will patrol areas adjoining the airport, and the number of flight marshals on the flights will also be increased. The alert has been issued in the run-up to the Republic Day parade and US President Barack Obama's visit to India. Now, Obama will be the chief guest at the Republic Day celebrations.
जो हवाई हमारी सीमा के ऊपर भी किसी न किसी तरीके से हमको वो क्या कहते हैं कठिनाई में डालने की कोशिश करेंगे, खासकर जहां पे हमारे देश के यात्री जाते हैं एयर इंडिया इत्यादि, उसके ऊपर हमला करने की कोशिश करेंगे ताकि त्रासदी ज्यादा से ज्यादा हो। इसलिए एयर इंडिया पे अलर्ट लगाना बहुत जरूरी हो गया, खासकर दिल्ली काबुल फ्लाइट या इंडिया काबुल फ्लाइट जो है उसमें ज्यादा खतरा लगता है। ये ऐसी जब थ्रेट आई है तो उसके ऊपर कदम उठाए जाएंगे।
All right, joining me for a chat this morning is Lieutenant General Afsir Karim, who is a national security expert. Thank you so much, Mr. Karim, for joining us this morning. Mr. Karim, now there's specific intelligence agencies alert about flights from India being targeted. How serious should we take this threat, and how big really is the threat?
You see, since it's an intelligence input, there must be some reason to believe that they are trying to target our aircraft. But I doubt very much if they can succeed in these circumstances when we are alert, when the entire country is on the alert against terrorist attacks and hijackings.
Right. Also, Mr. Karim, now no one can obviously forget the 1999 hijacking of IC-84, in which obviously the hijackers flew the aircraft to Kandahar. Do you think lessons have been learned after that?
Well, I think a lot of lessons have come out. I don't know how far they have been implemented on the ground.
All right.
But I feel now it will not be so easy for any hijacker to...
Right. Sir, you stay with us. We'll just come back to you. Meanwhile, after massive shelling by Pakistan Rangers across the international border into India and the discovery of an arms-laden boat off the coast of Gujarat, political parties and security analysts have called on Pakistan for restraint and adherence to laid-down mechanisms to ensure peace on the border. Here is more.
पाकिस्तान हमारा पड़ोसी देश है। हम अपने हर पड़ोसी के साथ बहुत ही अच्छे रिश्ते चाहते हैं, आज भी चाहते हैं कि हमारे अच्छे रिश्ते हों। लेकिन मैं समझता हूं पाकिस्तान सरकार को भी अपनी तरफ से पहल करनी चाहिए ताकि इस प्रकार का सीज फायर वायलेशन न हो।
We are surrounded in northern boundary by two neighbors who are not very comfortable neighbors. Pakistan doesn't like to stay quiet even on the New Year day.
The new year has started on a bad note for the neighbours of the subcontinent. A slew of ceasefire violations along the international border that resulted in deaths of BSF men, Pakistan Rangers, Indian Army Jawans and even civilians. And then the Pak boat supposedly carrying arms looking to penetrate the Gujarat coastline, but stopped just in time. After the Pak Defence Minister threatened aggressively saying it would speak to India in a language it understands, India's External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj shot off a letter to Sartaj Aziz asking Pakistan to adhere to laid down mechanisms. There's still no sign of any cooling off on either side.
The latest attempt to seizure of the boat, I think clearly shows, and the wireless messages that have been intercepted clearly show that there has been this has been an operation supported by the Pakistani army.
Investigation होना चाहिए और जो कुछ ये हुआ है, चाहे वो बोट्स का आना हो या हमारी सरहदों पर पाकिस्तान का आग उगलना हो, ये सब का सब न सिर्फ निंदनीय है बल्कि कोई सख्त कदम उठाने की जरूरत है.
On Sunday, Pakistan captured 2 Indian boats with 12 Indian fishermen in the Arabian Sea, seen as retaliation to the Pak boat being intercepted off Gujarat. Security experts in India say Pakistan's continuing threatening posture at India's doorstep takes the relationship to dangerous lows.
Operation of this magnitude is not possible without the support of the army or major intelligence agencies of the country. Was not expecting that India would respond with such force, So they are also, they thought, they'll get away this time again,
India's Defence Ministry is reportedly preparing for a full internal review of the intercepted satellite phone communications in the terror boat operation to strengthen its case. The pressure mounts on Pakistan. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Meanwhile, there has been a let-up in the firing along the Indo-Pak border. Now, villagers along the international border on the Indian side who have borne the brunt of shelling and gunfire for decades now term this ever-hanging shadow of fear a curse that they long to get rid of for good. Here is a report.
After days of the thunder of gunfire, a calm Sunday morning in a village in Sabha district. The village adjoins the international border with Pakistan. Hundreds of residents had been evacuated to safety zones after the latest bout of firing began on New Year's Eve. Most haven't returned yet. Those who remain show the damage done, some of it old, some in the latest firing. More than this, they say, are the scarred minds extending to many generations. They want an end of it once and for all.
ये तो बात ठीक है कि फायरिंग बंद है कल से, लेकिन ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि जब लोग प्लान कर लेते हैं तो उसके बाद फायरिंग बंद होती है. लोगों को सर्दी में कभी उधर जाना पड़ता है, कभी उधर भागना पड़ता है. ऐसा होना चाहिए कि जब फायरिंग हो रहा है तो इसको अब जब लोगों ने प्लान कर लिया है तो फायरिंग जब 1 महीना कम से कम करनी चाहिए हमारे हिंदुस्तान वालों को. पाकिस्तान को करारा जवाब देना चाहिए.
On Friday night and into Saturday, Pakistan Rangers had targeted several BSF posts in Jammu and Samba sectors. 2 army jawans and a woman were killed. 8 civilians were injured. The people who remain here say this Sunday morning peace is a temporary phenomenon that they dream would become part of life.
कोई पशु देखने के लिए बुजुर्ग थे इधर, इसलिए इनका पता पुता लेने आ गए. फिलहाल खतरा तो है हमारे लोगों को, और आज थोड़ी शांति है. यही शांति रहनी चाहिए.
It's a story of being caught in the crossfire. The frequency of frontier clashes in the last week has dashed hopes that a brief thaw after the new government came to power would turn things for the better. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
All right, let's go back to Lieutenant General Afsir Karim. Lieutenant General Karim, now this is not the first time that there are tensions along the Indo-Pak border, but the fact that the ceasefire violations this time are the most heavy as far as firing and shelling is concerned since the 1971 war.
See, the point is that Pakistan wants to highlight the problem of Kashmir, especially in relation to the visit of Obama during 26 January. So they are under this deliberate plan to doing this kind of violation, And I think it will die down soon, but we should not be in a hurry to take any stronger action. What we are doing is all correct. It is a border problem. It's not really a military problem as yet.
Right. Also, at the same time, when we talk about the intensity of the problem, that is one part of the problem. But then there is also the fact that now civilians are being targeted. They are forced to flee from their homes, and now obviously we have a case where the Pakistan government Pakistan has also captured Indian boats.
Yes, this is all part of the escalation which Pakistan is doing deliberately, and in all such border firing, civilians are the ones who suffer most because they are not undercover.
Right. But also, you're saying that what India is doing at the moment is absolutely correct. That's how the things should move on. But also the fact that there is a big war of words between Pakistan and India. We heard one of the Pakistan ministers the other day saying that they'll respond in a manner that, in a language that India really understands.
See, this kind of talk has no meaning. As far as these things are concerned, it's to be seen on the ground what's happening. These politicians keep on making such statements in all the countries.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you so much, Lieutenant General Karim, for joining us and giving us a perspective on that story. All right, we'll take a very short break here. Coming up ahead, in a welcome move, the government is considering setting a cap on airfares. More on that after a short break. Welcome back after the break. Now, rubbishing opposition criticism to amendments to the Land Acquisition Act by way of an ordinance, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley justified the government's urgency. He said it would ensure higher compensation for farmers. In an article posted on the BJP website and his Facebook page on Sunday, Jaitley said that the previous act had become obsolete and its compensation provisions were highly inadequate. He argued that the Land Acquisition Act of 2013, brought in by the UPA government, would have turned India into what he called a nation of incomplete projects. In his post, Jaitley also said that the ordinance sought to correct 50 drafting errors in the 2013 Act. Chief among the errors of the previous legislation was the provision that land unused for 5 years had to be returned. News from the national capital. Well, assembly elections are likely to be held in the middle of February. A PTI report quoted sources in the Election Commission as saying that the announcement for the one-day poll for the 70-member assembly may be made this week. The final list of electoral rolls for the National Capital Territory of Delhi would be published today, paving the way for holding the polls any time thereafter. PTI quotes sources as saying that the schedule will be so fine-tuned that the elections are hoped to be completed in the second or third week of February. The elections are expected to be a BJP versus AAP contest. The Election Commission is also to create a national-level electoral roll. Now, this is part of the efforts to provide single-window services to voters. The move will provide voters a one-stop centre for new registrations, modifications and deletions in the electoral roll. The data can be stored as a national data centre. The services offered to voters will include providing facilities for searching name, knowing the concerned block-level officer, constituency, name and number, and other voter information. And news from Jharkhand, where the Chief Minister Raghubar Das met Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Sunday amidst reports of the state cabinet's expansion. Cabinet expansion is likely to take place after a 3-day special session of the Assembly expected to begin today. Raghubar Das took the opportunity to discuss Jharkhand's development and has requested the Prime Minister to invest 400 crore rupees under the Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana to enable uninterrupted transport. Raghubar Das also asked the Prime Minister to include 6 Jharkhand cities in the centre's ambitious Smart City program.
अनौपचारिक ये मुलाकात थी, मैं आभार प्रकट करने आया था क्योंकि उन्होंने शपथ घर में हमारे नहीं आए और एक मजदूर की इतनी बड़ी जिम्मेदारी दी है, तो मैंने उन्हें आश्वस्त करने भी आया था कि आप हमें थोड़ा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पर और झारखंड जैसे राज्य पर थोड़ा विशेष ध्यान रखिएगा। तो हम इस राज्य को, जो आपकी ये कल्पना है कि झारखंड एक अव्वल राज्य बन सकता है देश में, तो उस कल्पना को हम साकार कर सकते हैं। उन्होंने हमें आश्वस्त किया कि केंद्र से पूरी मदद सहायता राज्य को मिलेगी।
And hopes of a breather on fare hikes for economy air travellers. Now, a temporary cap on airfares may soon be in place. The government is considering a mechanism on these lines that may limit the maximum fare to any national destination in economy class at 20,000 rupees. But not everyone is happy.
Sunil Sharma, a senior executive with a private company in Delhi, booked an emergency air ticket to Thiruvananthapuram last week. He had to reach his ailing son urgently. But a last-minute reservation meant no choice but to shell out an exorbitant fare. Sharma raises the need for corrective steps.
फिक्स होना चाहिए कि हाँ, जो भी ट्रैवल टाइम है या ड्यूरेशन है या जो डिस्टेंस है, उसके अनुसार बिल्कुल फिक्स होना चाहिए। इसमें कोई वेरिएशन नहीं चाहिए।
A sharp spike in the economy airfares was the direct fallout of the spate of cancellations following the crisis in budget carrier SpiceJet. Holiday season travellers were directly hit. Data for December 17, 2014 shows that average spot fares had jumped 45% on the Delhi-Mumbai route and 57% on the Delhi-Bangalore route on the back of SpiceJet's cancellations. The government too points out a long overdue need to look into the matter.
Getting 3 or 4 times of the rates, we are not convinced. But till date, the policy is worldwide that we cannot restrict the rates of them. But in principle, we believe that there should be a cap by DGCA or by our ministry, that some cap should be there. We are working on that under the present circumstances and laws.
The Aircraft Rules 1937 say the Director General of Civil Aviation can intervene if operators establish excessive or predatory tariffs. But civil aviation experts warn that the capping measure could actually hurt passengers rather than benefit them, because airlines would then stick to the top limit.
There is a seasonal demand. See, holiday season, people are traveling, festival seasons, people are traveling. That time the airlines can, when the demands are there, naturally they will raise their fare.
The mechanism is likely to be finalized in a month after consultations with various stakeholders. The government, though, has clarified that it has no plans to regulate business class fares. The industry has frowned upon the proposed move, asserting that regulating airfares could actually hurt the ailing and cash-strapped airlines. However, the Civil Aviation Ministry claims that it received several complaints from various quarters about the exorbitant fares charged by the airlines at the last moment and reiterated the need to cap the airfares. Reporting from Delhi, Kriti Mishra for Rajya Sabha Television.
And the government has set aside a decision on the call for a separate time zone for the northeastern states, at least for now. The sun rises and sets nearly an hour earlier in northeast India than in the rest of the country, and the demand for a separate time zone is an old one. But officials point out that doing this, that could lead to a spate of related problems.
They have their reasons for the need to be moved to a time zone different from IST. Vastly different sunrise and sunset times and routines top the list, supported by their geographical location. The globe has been divided into 24 time zones as per longitudinal positions. Russia has 11 time zones. 8 a.m. in Kaliningrad will mean that it'll be 6 p.m. in the Kamchatka Peninsula. Every time zone has a difference of 1 hour. Similarly, Australia is divided in 3 time zones with Western Standard Time, Central Standard Time and Eastern Standard Time. To save energy and other factors, the northeastern states have been demanding that they should not be tied down by the Indian Standard Time. The government has rejected the idea, saying that scientific studies suggest only a paltry 1.2 to 1.5% increase in energy savings.
वो डोनर मंत्रालय के दायरे में नहीं आती बात, इसलिए मुझे उसका कोई अधिक जानकारी नहीं है। परंतु मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि संसद में शायद इस प्रकार का एक प्रश्न आया था जिसके उत्तर में सरकार ने ये कहा था कि अभी इस प्रकार की योजना या इस प्रकार की कोई विषय सरकार के विचाराधीन नहीं है।
Experts contend that a lack of understanding of the idea of a different time zone will cause huge problems. Timings of railways and air transport will be the first to be affected. As a remedy, the centre suggests the state governments in the northeast vary working hours according to their convenience. CPM MP Ritabrata Banerjee, who raised the issue in the Rajya Sabha, has said he would take up the government's reply with chief ministers of the region.
Minister of Assam, he had also वो भी बोले हैं कि ये सेपरेट टाइम जोन के बारे में, तो ये देखते हैं नॉर्थ ईस्ट का जो माहौल, ये जो त्रिपुरा का जो चीफ मिनिस्टर है मानिक सरकार, जो हमारा पार्टी से है, हम उनसे बात करेंगे, ये आंसर आया है, इसके बाद क्या होगा ये वो लोग उठाएंगे, जब एनडीसी मीटिंग होगा उसमें आकर उठाएंगे।
Indian Standard Time has been set on 82.5 degrees east longitude, as per the Geographical Centre of India. The sheer size of this time zone has meant it is disadvantageous for the northeastern states as they receive less daylight. Tea planters in Assam are forced to follow a different time zone for better production. Now Vikram Singh's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
And here is all the other national news and updates in Nationwide. A blueprint for the revival of the Congress party is expected to be ready by March. Sources say party president Sonia Gandhi has formally written a letter to the state chiefs asking them to seek views and submit a report to her by February end. They also said that an AICC meeting will be held in March to take up these suggestions, which will be compiled in a book form. Sitting Samajwadi Party MLA Kaptan Singh Rajput and his brother have been declared guilty of murder. A court in Chirkhari in Uttar Pradesh held the duo guilty in a 13-year-old murder case. The MLA now faces disqualification. According to the prosecution, the victim Kishan was attacked and killed by Kaptan and his brother on 20th of April 2002. The quantum of punishment is likely to be pronounced today. A two-day orientation program for Haryana's newly elected MLAs ended in Surajkund yesterday. Senior BJP leaders, including Union Ministers Rajnath Singh, Sushma Swaraj, Venkaiah Naidu and KP Gujrar, who is also the Faridabad MP, participated in the workshop. The BJP came to power in Haryana with a strong majority in the recent elections. Mild rains have pushed up the minimum temperatures in the national capital, but as the fog persists, train schedules are still haywire. For most of North India, however, there is no respite in sight. Bone-chilling conditions continue in Jammu and Kashmir, with overnight temperatures remaining several notches below freezing point. High-altitude areas of Himachal Pradesh had moderate snowfall and rains, resulting in the mercury to drop. The minimum temperature recorded in Shimla was minus 4.4 degrees Celsius. Eid-e-Milan-un-Nabi was celebrated across the country yesterday with traditional fervour and gaiety. The Prime Minister, President and other leaders greeted the people on the occasion. Religious processions marking the birth of Prophet Muhammad were taken out in several cities and towns across the country. Homes, mosques, shrines and seminaries are decked with flags, buntings and banners to welcome the day, considered to be among the most blessed in the Islamic calendar. And our researchers from the Indonesia Weather Office have said that the Air Asia plane that disappeared on 28th of December last year may have flown into a storm cloud. Now, this could have led to the jet's engines possibly being affected by ice formation. The office came to this conclusion, citing metadata from the ill-fated flight's last known location over the Java Sea. Infrared data from a weather satellite showed that temperatures in the clusters that the plane went through were as low as minus 85 degrees Celsius, meaning that there were droplets of ice inside the clouds. Meanwhile, bad weather continues to hamper the search for the plane's black box, even as the teams recovered 4 more bodies from the Java Sea, making it 34 found so far. Search teams also found 5 large objects, but officials say that there is a long way to go as 30 ships and 14 helicopters are scanning the area. 162 people were on board when the plane crashed. And in more international news, militant group Boko Haram has seized a town and a key multinational military base in northeastern Nigeria. The militants overran the army base in the remote town of Baga, killing scores of soldiers in the attack. Baga is the headquarters of a multinational force comprising troops from Niger, Nigeria, Chad and Cameroon. Many residents of the town were killed as it was set ablaze. Baga was also the scene of a Nigerian army massacre in 2013 when dozens of people mostly civilians were killed in fighting between the multinational force and Boko Haram. It was the last town in Borno North area under the government control. Nigeria's long-standing conflict with Boko Haram has killed over 10,000 people last year. And more international news and updates in World Wrap. At least 6 Taliban militants were killed in a US drone strike in Pakistan's North Waziristan tribal region. A Pakistani official said a drone fired 2 missiles into a compound in the Datta Khel sub-district. Airstrikes in the Tirha Valley destroyed 4 militant hideouts and a suicide bomber training center. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has announced that he intends to resubmit a draft resolution to the UN Security Council to schedule an end to the Israeli occupation until 2017. Palestinians hope the UN will be more sympathetic to their resolution, demanding an Israeli withdrawal from occupied territories and independence by 2017. High winds and possible tornadoes left a trail of damage across the southeastern part of the United States on Sunday. Local media reported that services were underway at one church when the storm knocked the tower from the building. The Met Department said that the storms will bring much colder temperatures into the region, possibly even below freezing point. And on to sports now, and the Sports Ministry may recommend Saina Nehwal for the Padma Awards. Sports Minister Sonowal said this after the ace shuttler expressed her disappointment for not being considered for the prestigious Padma Bhushan Award this year publicly.
And the crowd salute her.
The Sports Ministry is now examining the possibility of recommending badminton ace Saina Nehwal's name for the coveted Padma Bhushan Award. Sports Minister Sarbanand Sonowal revealed that the ministry received a nomination letter from the Badminton Association of India dated 9th of August 2014 only on Saturday, a charge that BAI denies. This came just a day after Saina accused the ministry of rejecting her application, expressing displeasure at being overlooked for 2-time Olympic medal winner and wrestler Sushil Kumar.
This Badminton Association of India, the letter of recommendation for her for Padma Bhushan. This letter we have received yesterday. That was 3rd January 2015. That point is very clear. And still we are very much open to it. And tomorrow I am going to examine the possibility of recommending her name to the ministry concerned.
The Sports Ministry will also look into the rule which envisages a 5-year gap for a person to be recommended for another Padma Award. Nehwal had contended that Sushil's nomination was in violation of the said rule. Sushil Kumar was awarded the Padma Shri in 2011.
Like she is also deserving, because Sushil Kumar, 2-time Olympian medals. So she is also equally great player, no doubt about it.
Saina Nehwal may finally be awarded after the Sports Ministry sends a recommendation to the Home Minister separately. But what's disheartening is that it took a series of lambasting tweets from Khel Ratna, Arjun and Padma Shri awardee Saina to wake up the administration. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And here is more sports news in our Sports Beat. The 4th and final test match between India and Australia will start at the Sydney Cricket Ground tomorrow. It will be a big test for newly appointed Indian skipper Virat Kohli to revive the team from early defeats, as India has already lost the series 2-0. In Dhoni's absence, it will be interesting to watch how the young brigade fares in the final test. Fernando Torres was welcomed by thousands of fans at the Vicente Calderon Stadium on Sunday after he returned to his beloved hometown club Atletico Madrid. The Spanish striker has agreed to rejoin Atletico on loan from AC Milan. Torres left Atletico Madrid for Liverpool in 2007 before moving on to Chelsea for a British record fee of £50 million in 2011. Arsenal began the defence of their FA Cup title by defeating Hull City 2-0 at the Emirates Stadium on Sunday. Mertesacker's header in the 20th minute gave Arsenal an early lead. After a dominating first half by Arsenal, Alexis Sanchez capped another outstanding performance with his 16th goal of the season in the 82nd minute and helped Arsenal to claim victory. Well, that's all in this edition of Breakfast News. Thanks for watching. Have a great day ahead.